Solar Hunters are one of those subclasses that no matter what the artifacts are for each season, there will always be a strong suit in PvE and PvP. Pairing this subclass with the young Ahamkara's Spine exotic, we get a really solid amount of ability spam, and who doesn't like to just throw abilities like no tomorrow? The gameplay loop for this build isn't too complex either. Simply toss your grenade at an enemy to deal that big damage from the exotic, then throw your knife at an enemy to get some grenade energy back, toss the grenade, dodge your enemy to refill the knife charge, then rinse and repeat while mixing in a few gunpowder gamble grenades when you get those up after 5 solar ability kills. Alright, enough of the small talk and foreplay, let's get down to business. Starting in our subclass here, we've got our Blade Barrage Super, Gambler's Dodge so we can get that melee back, triple jump, strafe jump, high jump, whatever you want to use. I just like triple jump, it's the best in PvE, strafe in PvP. Knife trick here so we can hit as many enemies to get as much of our grenade back as possible, and then obviously trip mine grenades, because why else wouldn't you use Ahamkara's Spine without trip mine grenades? That's the whole point of it. Our aspects are going to be gunpowder gamble and then knock them down. For our fragments here, we're going to use Ember of Torches so we can get radiant off of our melee attacks, Ember of Ashes to apply more scorch stacks, Ember of Char so our solar ignition spreads scorch to affected targets, plus we get that nice 10 boost to discipline, and then we're also going to go with Ember of Searing. Defeating scorched targets grants melee energy and creates a fire sprite. Our subclass is going to be purely about building into scorch and ignitions alongside utilizing gunpowder gamble and our trip mine grenades to get a ton of damage output as fast as possible, while also being able to regen our melee charges so we can utilize that to pair into young Ahamkara's Spine. Now when we look at some stats that you should build into when making this build, there are 3 that you really need to focus on, with that being mobility so we can get our dodge back faster, resilience so we can stay alive more and take less damage with that 30% damage reduction, and then discipline so we can get those grenades up, obviously. When we look at the artifact, there isn't anything that really goes with solar this season, but just make sure to grab authorized mods melee so any of our armor mods that utilize melee will actually be 1 versus 2 or 3. Now, when we take a look at some weapons to bring along, honestly, in the kinetic slot, bring something like Wither Horde or Riptide, and you'll be set. You could even bring along Malfeasance if you're fighting a lot of taken enemies, but that's up to you. When we look at our energy slot, there's a few options that I like to use. Akaja's Dejection from the Root of Nightmares raid is by far and away one of my favorites. You could also use Bug Out Bag or Callous Mini Tool if you want to run a incandescent solar SMG. Some exotics is Polaris Lance, oddly enough, goes pretty crazy with solar builds, and Polaris Lance is a solid one in GMs as well, especially since it can be utilized to create Scorch as well as Ignitions. Or you could go the Prometheus Lens route and then have another exotic slot used up there. It also has Incandescent on it, so it's a very solid one as well. Now in the heavy slot, if I'm dealing just like an ad clear type deal, I actually really like the fixed odds machine gun with Incandescent. And then if we're in a boss damage situation, you could go with obviously the Apex Predator, or you could go with a linear fusion rifle like Briar's Contempt or Cataclysmic. Gallahorn is another solid choice if you want to be that pack hunter for your team, giving them all wolf pack rounds or their rocket launchers. And if you do, that is very, very nice of you. You're a great player, and I thank you for your service. Now, finally, let's get into the final part of our build here, which is going to be our armor mods. Starting on our helmet here, we're going to go with Harmonic Siphon, so our solar weapon final blows will create orbs. And we're going to use Dynamo so we can get our super cooldown faster when we use our class ability near enemies. And then Ashes to Assets, because we're throwing so many grenades. This is going to be phenomenal for getting more super energy. On our gauntlets here, Firepower so we can create orbs from grenade final blows. And then Focusing Strike and Bolstering Detonation, so both our grenade and melee will give us back our dodge faster. On our chest piece, run resistance mods that work for whatever activity you're doing, whether that's Arc, Solar, Void. Just run 3 of those so you can get the most damage resistance. On our legs here, we're going to run Elemental Charge, so our fire sprites will have a chance to give us an armor charge. Then I run Font of Agility here because Font armor mods will give you plus 30 to whatever stat you choose. So Font of Agility is going to give me plus 30 to my mobility, making that a 100 stat total since I have 70 mobility on this build. Then I'm also bringing in Recuperation so we get health back every time we pick up an orb. Finally, on our class item here, I'm running a Reaper, a Bomber, and then a Time Dilation so our armor charges can last longer, as well as getting grenade cooldown from using our class ability, and then finally, when we use our class ability, our next final blow with a weapon is going to generate an orb. This build is awesome, and I love it. It's one of my favorites in the game. It's my top 3 hunter builds in the game, absolutely hands down without a question. And the best part about this is you can take it into PvP and see a lot of success. It's a very solid exotic that can be utilized to hold down lanes in a PvP map, and you can also deal big damage if you get the grenade to go off. It is quite annoying to go up against in PvP, so if people message you getting angry, I'm sorry, don't blame me, blame the loser that did it. You're not going to have a ton of ways to regenerate health outside of our recuperation, so that's why we want a ton of resilience and resistance armor mods here. That's what's going to help us to survive a little bit longer in endgame content. If you guys are enjoying this build, if you've used it for yourself or you already use it, let me know what you think of it down below in the comments section. I appreciate you guys making it to the end of the video here. And if you want to check out some more of my content, I do live streaming on Kick Monday, Tuesday, and Thursdays at 7 p.m. Central, and then over on Twitch Friday, Saturday, and Sundays at 7 p.m. Central. I would hope to see you guys in chat. And if you want some more of my short form content, my TikTok will be linked in the description below. I hope you guys have a phenomenal rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.